afternoon and good morning, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. I am Tomiko Dagan, the Senior Vice President of the Universal Peace Federation USA and IAPD, which stands for the Interreligious Association for Peace and Development US Coordinator. IAPD organizes various programs that bring together leading experts to explore the prospects for improving relations, not only between two Koreas, but also other stakeholder countries in the region. The forum will focus on track 2 diplomacy, commitment to peace on the unification of the Korean Peninsula today. This soft power or track 2 diplomacy approach to peace aims to help bring about the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula with dialogue, scholarly research, and civic society initiatives. We are well aware of that Korean Peninsula is inhabited by one people with a shared ancestral roots and one culture that shares a spiritual and historical heritage. The Korean Peninsula should be peacefully reunited for the benefit for the Korean people. We have high hopes that this webinar will be an excellent opportunity to gain more knowledge about the issues and challenges and ultimately provides us with hope for building one Korea. I would now like to invite today's program moderator, Dr. Michael Jenkins. He is the president of UPF International and the chairman of UPF USA. The floor is yours, Dr. Michael Jenkins.
Thank you to Tomiko Duggan, the senior vice president of the Universal Peace Federation for USA, and also an outstanding leader in the interfaith community. We're so honored to be with her today, and we are also looking forward to our program. We're very, very inspired by the work of Dr. Suzanne Schulte, who has also been working for many years, testifying to Congress about the plight of people who are in North Korea and who have not been able to experience freedom under the current regime and under the regimes of Kim Jong-un's father and grandfather. And her testimonies before Congress have really caused an attention to be developed towards how can we help the people of North Korea? How can we help them experience freedom and come out of the totalitarian state? Her leadership has also caused such a awakening to occur, how we can communicate with the people of North Korea, and also how do we move governments to support that effort, like the United States, like the Republic of Korea and others, to help develop the vision of what is possible if people can come out of North Korea, because many in North Korea are really held very strongly under the kind of propaganda and the kind of education that exists there, that everything outside of Korea is dangerous. It's against North Korea. Everything outside of North Korea is not really safe. It's not really free. It's not a culture surrounding North Korea that is fair. It's a totalitarian, or it's a culture that's based on American aggressiveness, American, desire to really dominate North Korea, to hurt North Korea. And for the most part, people don't get other information. They know there is more to the story than that. But at the same time, what happens is it doesn't get out to the people. However, we're learning about incredible breakthroughs and thousands of people who have been touched by the efforts of good Christians throughout South Korea, but also all over the world, especially led by Dr. Suzanne Schulte, to be able to understand there is a world out there, and it's not a world that's an enemy towards the Korean or North Korean people. It's a world that really wants to open up the door for freedom, for peace, for democracy, and that it's very different than what the people are being told. So today, we're very excited to present to you Dr. Suzanne Schulte, and her program is doing such an amazing work. We were at the home of one of her colleagues uh, about 4 weeks ago on a Sunday afternoon, and I think there was 28 people who had escaped North Korea and come out to freedom. They're so shocked. They're so liberated, but they're also so shocked at how different the world outside of North Korea is. Very, very different than what they've been told and what they've been led to believe. So this is a work of God. This is a work of freedom. So I'd like to introduce and welcome at this time Dr. Suzanne Schulte. Suzanne, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jenkins and Tomiko. I have been instructed to fill you all in on what we did North Korea Freedom Week and what we learned from the delegation. So what I was going to do is tell you a little bit about North Korea Freedom Week and then give you some direct testimony from what the North Koreans told us when they were here. And then what are some of the ways that, some of the things they advise that we should be doing regarding this situation. And also what happened on July 15th when President Yoon of South Korea had the very first North Korean defector day and what he said. So to start out, just for a little background, North Korea Freedom Week is an event we started back in 2004. It was mostly focused on trying to bring people together for the passage of the North Korea Human Rights Act. And we expanded it to a full week because we realized that there's so many issues that people need to look at when you're talking about North Korea, whether it's the refugees escaping and the trafficking situation in China, whether it's political prison camps, whether it's the starvation in North Korea. So we expanded to a week, and it's become something that we've done every year to promote the freedom, human rights, and dignity of the North Korean people. But the most important people that are part of it are the North Korean defectors. That's always focused on the North Korean defectors. And from North Korea Freedom Week, that's when the President of the United States met with the first North Korean defectors. That's when the first hearings were held on the political prison camps. And all of these things have come from North Korea Freedom Week. So this year, we had as the theme, the road to peaceful unification is the end of the Kim regime. Let us show the way. And that was the theme. And we brought all the North Korean defector leaders that are working on peacefully ending the regime to come here, but also special witnesses, including a boat captain who just escaped last year with his family. Now, what's significant about what they talked about is it fits in completely with what Dr. Jenkins and Tomiko have talked about, which is the information, which is engaging and trying to get information to North Korea so people understand the reality of their circumstances, that we're not their enemy. In fact, the North Korean defectors and our theme has always been the truth will set them free, because we really believe that getting the truth into North Korea is the key to resolving all of this. So what we see right now, we feel this sense of urgency because we do have a president in South Korea, President Yoon Suk-yeol, who is very focused on promoting North Korea's freedom and human rights. And he considers them, which they are, the North Korean people, citizens of South Korea under the South Korean Constitution. And he's vowed never to repatriate any North Koreans, but to work hard to try to help those North Koreans that are trapped in China, that are trying to get to South Korea. So we feel this sense of urgency because he's only going to be president for several more years, and we don't know what's going to happen in South Korea. But a lot of people are predicting that Lee, the candidate who's very much a pro-communist and very much pro-regime, may actually get elected. He almost got elected last time, so people are very concerned about that. So to emphasize, we feel the sense of urgency. But what's the current situation? We see that an escalation in the human rights violations. And we see just horrible things that the regime is doing to try to cut off the flow of information. And just one example, everybody, this is in the news today. Why is North Korea sending balloons full of fecal matter and trash to South Korea? Because it's desperate for us to stop sending in ramen noodles and radios and hope and Bibles. And so we know that this is having an impact because Kim Jong-un is very focused on trying to cut the people off from having any outside information. And we heard recently he started to plant landmines at the China-North Korea border. And I don't know of any time in history when the leader of a nation planted landmines to kill his own people to prevent them from trying to escape. So we see that the things that the dictator in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is doing right now are acts of desperation because the people are far more informed. So while we see these human rights violations increasing, something very significant has also increased, and that is the knowledge and information that the people of North Korea have. So with that, I just wanted to read a couple of quotes from some of the things that they told us. And Dr. Jenkins mentioned this boat captain that got out just before we started the program, this boat captain that got out with his family, Kim Ye-yok. And I want to quote what he said. When in North Korea, I received the rice bottles. The rice bottles are being sent in by the North Korean defector NGOs, funded 100% by Americans and freedom-loving citizens. I received the rice bottles with rice flash drives in the Bible. It's so important to bring change to North Korea and to give them hope. What influenced me the most was learning about South Korea from K-pop music and Korean dramas. We saw that the South Koreans had a much better quality of life. But I also witnessed numerous human rights violations, including public executions. In North Korea, I saw children as young as 8 years old being forcibly mobilized to community labor work. And Kim said the reason why he decided to defect is because he wanted to have a better life for his children. And he was able to get out last year with his entire family because he was a boat captain and had access to the waters. Another North Korean defector, Kim Hyung-kwang, who is an intellectual, actually was a professor in Pyongyang. He said along the China-North Korea border, the Kim regime installed barbed wire, built concrete walls, installed high voltage electric fences, installed CCTV that can be monitored 24/7 Pyongyang, increased the number of border guards, and as I mentioned earlier, planted landmines. They're putting logs with nails embedded in the Yalu and Tumen rivers so that if people trying to escape, they could be injured on these nails. It's all, he said, to prevent people from escaping because North Koreans have started to understand the reality of their circumstances and they're questioning the Kim regime. He said, for instance, they mock Kim Jong-un now as who's supposed to be their dear leader and their father. They say lines like this to each other. What's wrong with your father? Why can't he provide for your family? He said, I believe this is a significant change in North Korea. That is something that never would have happened in the past, but they're openly mocking the dictator in a disguised way by saying, how's your father treating you? And because they all know he's treating them miserably. One of the defectors also, Miss Bae Yu-jin, she said, if you get one flash drive into North Korea, one flash drive, it's going to be copied 1,000 times. It's going to reach 1,000 people because they're very hungry, not just for food, but for information. Now, the defectors also talked about the current situation affecting the North Koreans in China. And this is really important because this is a critical issue right now that also President Yoon has made a priority, but also the Biden administration is in speaking out, calling on China not to force the North Koreans who escaped during the COVID pandemic, got to China, but never got to South Korea. And we know that there are hundreds that are detained in Chinese detention centers. They're in a circumstance of possibly being forced back to North Korea, where we know 100% of them will be tortured. 100% of them will be incarcerated because were trying to reach South Korea. And those that they know were trying to get to South Korea could be publicly executed. So this is an extreme situation right now. But one of the defectors testified that last October 9th, 600 were repatriated in the middle of the night. Now, what's significant about repatriating North Korean refugees on October 9th? Why October 9th? Why in the middle of the night? Because it was right after Hamas attacked Israel. And the Chinese knew everybody would be focused on what was going on in Israel, and they wouldn't pay attention to this. So this shows that the Chinese, the CCP knows that this is a horrible thing they're doing, and the international community is pressuring them to stop this. So they're trying to do it quietly. We know that there's a group that were of 200 that were also repatriated back in April. Jang Sung-yul testified that he went to China with a high-ranking South Korean official and met with the police there. And what the police told him was, there's nothing we can do. We don't really want to do this. The police that are detaining these North Korean refugees, the police in China that are forcing them back, they're like, we don't want to do this. They know it's horrible what's happening. And so they are saying that you've got to get the CCP to change their policy. So it's all coming from the regime, the Chinese Communist regime that's doing this. Unless we pressure this, it's going to continue to happen. Now, some insights about what the North Korean defector delegation told us about what's going on. We saw recently, a couple months ago, that Kim Jong-un changed his strategy. He was always talking about taking over South Korea. He was offered unification by force in taking over South Korea, but he dropped that policy and declared South Korea the enemy. Suddenly, this is a change of an 80-year policy. So why did he do that? Kim Hwang-kwon, who was the intellectual defector that had been a professor in Pyongyang, said the intention of Kim Jong-un by ending this 80-year-old policy of reunification and labeling South Korea as the enemy is, he said, U.S. and South Korean experts have different views, but people like me believe there are three main reasons why this happened. Number one, Kim Jong-un believes in order to maintain his power, he needs to take away the hope of all North Koreans. Number two, he needs to solidify his hereditary dictatorship. Number three, his effort is to further isolate North Koreans and continue this ideological hold that he has over their minds. So what this tells us is Kim Jong-un is feeling that his dictatorship is in danger, and that's why he changed this 80-year-old policy. Now, Kim Hye-yok, the captain that recently escaped, said not many North Koreans hold loyalty anymore to the Kim regime, especially the younger generation of North Koreans, because they want change. They want to bring change to North Korea. Bae Yu-jin, the woman that talked about a flash drive being reproduced 1,000 times if you can get one in, she said, the outside world needs to continue to send new information to North Korea so that North Koreans can stay informed of the outside world. And Ji Hana, this is an amazing woman. She was a mother of two sons. She actually rescued her sons in 2019. What's really significant about that is this is a woman who escaped from North Korea, got arrested in China, became a Christian, was arrested for attending a Bible study and put in detention in China, and then repatriated back to North Korea, tortured in North Korea, escaped again, repatriated, tortured again in North Korea, escaped the third time, got to South Korea, saved up the resources, and then incredibly, she went back to China and personally rescued her two sons in 2019. I mean, that's an amazing story in that she would risk everything to go rescue her two sons. And now she lives in freedom in South Korea. She says this, North Koreans are contemplating they would be better off engaging in a conflict, in a war with South Korea and the United States because they fear another arduous march. Now, what does that tell us? That the North Koreans that are serving in the military are worried that they are going to face starvation. And rather than see their families starve and rather than starve to death themselves, they would rather see a conflict with a war with South Korea, the United States. That's how desperate and broken people are in North Korea right now. So very important point to make. There's one thing I wanted to share about this delegation. In total unity, this delegation, and this is men and women that range from 60 years of age to 20 years of age. They said, we do not want war. We do not want any conflict. We're totally against any military confrontation because we have loved ones. We have family and friends that are still in North Korea. We don't want to see that happen. We oppose that, but we are unified that the way to peaceful unification is by the information. There's a 2 million person network in North Korea of people that are in touch with their loved ones in South Korea. This would be all the North Koreans that are communicating with their loved ones in North Korea. And its information is key. And even though Kim Jong-un is doing everything he can to break down that and isolate the North Koreans and break down that exchange of information, they're never going to stop because these are their loved ones. These are their families. They're going to want to be in touch with the people that they love. And even though it's nearly impossible to escape, Kim Jong-un cannot seal up that country. He can't stop the information flow because people they're starving for information, as I mentioned. So some of the recommendations they made, Ha Kwan-il, he's the head of the North Korean Committee for the Democratization of North Korea. He's the head of the NGO that was the first North Korean defector NGO. It's considered the umbrella group. Ha Kwan-il shared that North Korean defectors expect more from the US government than the South Korean government because unlike the US, the left, the pro-Kim factor in South Korea is so strong and so pro-North Korea. They're expecting more from our country. So please, the United States need to do more to help the North Korean defectors because they consider themselves the ones that are on the front line fighting to bring down the regime. Jang Song-yul, he said, Kim Jong-un forsook unification because he's desperate. That's why it's important that the US government and the North Korean defector organizations continue to send outside information to North Korea. We need to broaden the spectrum of outside information sent to North Korea so North Koreans want to receive real-time news. Now, that was one thing that they could dispute among themselves. Some of the younger defectors said, send in South Korean K-pop music, send in Korean dramas, because that opens up their minds. The older defectors were like, send in the Universal Declaration of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Send in information about the South Korean Constitution. They were more, wanting to get in the face of the regime, but they were unified in the fact that the information is really key. And then Park Sung-hak, he said, what we should do is we should bombard North Korean with leaflets, which is basically the balloon launches and getting leaflets in that share information about the outside world. And then Kim Hwang-kwang shared that interesting observation. He said South Korea won the competition in the 1980s as far as being a prosperous nation, and North Koreans were understanding that, but South Korea got complacent. And he said we should consider what Reagan did with Gorbachev and talk about, we don't want to have a military confrontation. We want to share information. We want to speak the truth. We want to speak out about how much we care about the people of North Korea. And who are the best people to do that? The North Korean defectors who live in freedom in South Korea. There's nothing more powerful than North Koreans who have escaped, living in the freedom of South Korea, telling their loved ones back in North Korea, their family and their friends, this is the reality of South Korea. It's a prosperous nation. They're not their enemy. America's not your enemy. They want to help you. They want to help the people what does America want? It wants North Koreans to enjoy the same human rights that both South Korean Americans have. So I believe that that is a summation of what these defectors told us. And just to wrap up here, the significance of this North Korea Freedom Week is that the First Lady of South Korea met with members of the delegation, which was huge because it happened during the same time as the NATO summit. And the South Korean government was so busy with the NATO summit, but the First Lady took the time to meet with this delegation. And then on July 14th, which is the first North Korean Defectors Day, President Yoon gave Kim Sung-min the highest civilian award in South Korea to Kim Sung-min for
Wow.
his work. Now that's significant because Kim Sung-min is my closest colleague in this effort. And he is the director and founder of Free North Korea Radio. And he's the one that's leading the efforts on Operation Truth, which is our work to get information in by land, by sea, and by air. So how should we respond to this? Well, first of all, we need to sanction the Chinese officials who are responsible for the repatriation of North Korean refugees that absolutely believe that, and we've been calling for the Biden administration to do this. We need to hold accountable these officials and sanction them, because what they are doing when they repatriate North Korean refugees is they are basically complicit in murder. And we need to be speaking out more about that. The second thing is we've got to keep human rights at the forefront. We've got to make no matter what Kim Jong-un threatens, and we know he's giving missiles, nuclear missiles to Russia in their war against Ukraine, but we've got to keep human rights at the forefront. The other thing we need to do is realize that we believe that we are once again at the point where the collapse of the regime is imminent. Now, I say that because in 1997, Hwang Jong-ya, the highest ranking North Korea defector, defected in 1997. He thought that the collapse of the regime was imminent. That's why he defected, because he wanted to guide South Korea in how to resolve this issue, peacefully bringing down that regime, because it was close to collapse because of the massive starvation. So what happened? The South Korean government bailed out the Kim Jong-il regime at that time with this so-called sunshine policy. The same thing happened with the previous president, Moon Suk-yeol. He made it, I'm sorry, Moon Jae-in. Moon Jae-in made the same mistake. Moon Jae-in did so much to help the Kim Jong-un regime consolidate power. We don't want to make that mistake again. Unfortunately, President Yoon Suk-yeol is talking very, very strongly about the importance of North Korea's freedom and human rights and promoting that. And just to wrap up, I wanted to cite some of the things he said during North Korean Defectors Day. And in addition to giving an award to Kim Sung-min, he talked about he's going to speak out about the refugees. He's going to do everything he can to help the North Koreans that have resettled in North Korea. He wants to provide financial support for them, for childcare services, for welfare programs. He wants to provide incentives for businesses that hire North Korean defectors. He wants to speak out and be sure that the refugees are protected. But important to note, he didn't talk about any funding for North Korean defector NGOs that are doing Operation Truth. And that is where the Americans, freedom-loving citizens come in. Operation Truth is our efforts to get information into North Korea by land, by sea, and by air. People can actually go online and order for delivery cell phones, rice, ramen noodles, Bibles, leaflets, radios, and they can be part of the Free North Korea radio broadcast. Operation Truth, Free North Korea, 100% carried out by North Korean defectors, 100% financed by freedom-loving citizens of the world, chiefly Americans and American churches. But we see now we're at this critical point. We have a president in South Korea who sympathizes with what we're doing, but he can't directly fund this work because it's still against the law in South Korea, because the assembly is controlled by the pro-Kim Jong-un leftist forces who enacted a law banning all this stuff. And it's unconstitutional. The law is unconstitutional. President Yoon declared it unconstitutional. But his hands are tied because, unlike in America, when a law is declared unconstitutional, it's not null and void. It has to go back to the assembly. The assembly is controlled by the pro-Kim Jong-un factions. So we're in this very dangerous period. That's why we feel a sense of urgency. For I think I did it in 20 minutes. I was trying.
Great, great. Thank you, Dr. Schulte. And as you know, Suzanne is with the Defense Foundation Forum, and I put it in the chat. The link to the Defense Forum Foundation is in the chat. And if you go click on that, you'll find a lot of information and also a place where we can donate. And I want to encourage everybody to give a donation today with your credit card or PayPal. It's really important because that will go directly to giving people in the North information that will eventually help them be free. We met the person that received one of the jars of or bottles of rice that she's been sending.
Yeah, this is an
It's so
example.
amazing. Yeah, look at that. And it goes in by balloon, and people find it. There's $1 bill tucked inside the rice that can feed a family for how long, Suzanne?
$1 can feed a family for a week. I'd like to point out the US
Wow.
dollar is still strong in North Korea. $1 can feed a family for a week.
Isn't that amazing? And one young man got the balloon with the rice and not only got the dollar, but also got the information. And I met him 4 weeks ago on Sunday with Suzanne and 27 other people that had come through her efforts over the years. It's just amazing. Most of them came in the last couple of years. I mean, I was just amazed. Thank you, Dr. Schulte. We have questions coming in, but we're going to hold them till the end. So after Mr. Arthur presents, then we'll go to question and answer. We can have a little discussion. Wasn't that amazing? It's an amazing phenomenon. And we're so grateful for such courageous people of faith like Suzanne that are doing this work and also professionally informing people, informing the government, not only our government, but governments of other nations too. And right now, I totally agree that President Yoon is very, very supportive, and you couldn't have a better situation to go forward. And we hope we can get those laws changed to back the way they were under the past president. He wanted to try to see if he could get closer to the North by being so uh, so cooperative for their demands, thinking if he caves into their demands, oh, they're going to really work with us. It didn't improve anything. It made things worse. So they made laws against anybody sending things to the North by balloon or otherwise. So really, really serious. Thank you, Dr. Schulte. You're our hero. And you're really amazing in terms of your energy. I've never seen anything like it. She speaks in churches all over America. She is really, really to be commended, but also supported. Go to that link and everybody donate $100, all right? Or 200 if you want. You can donate all you want there. Thank you. All right, now we have our next speaker is a wonderful man of God. Mr. Resfred Young-Soo Arthur is the co-pastor of the Las Vegas Family Church. He was born in Ghana, West Africa. His Ghanaian father and his mother's from Japan. He spent 14 years of his life there before moving to the United States. He attributes his expansive worldview to his upbringing in Africa, as well as growing up within a faith community of people from all around the world. He interned at the United Nations in 2014, where he partook in the development of the Sustainable Development Goals. Upon graduating with a bachelor's degree of science in computer science, he briefly worked in cybersecurity before receiving a higher calling to serve God's providence and as the Secretary General of the Northeast region of the Family Federation. This has led to him to support many faith, family, and world peace initiatives in the United States and also around the world. And like I said, he went across America on the Peace Road Tour in 2000 during the peak of the pandemic to cry out for peace for the world and also build the International Peace Highway. We eventually want that highway to go through North Korea to South Korea. He recently was called to support the Providence in Las Vegas as a co-youth pastor and assistant to the senior pastor and his lovely wife, Hannah Arthur, joined together as co-pastors. Together they spend their days longing to realize the dream of Father and Mother Moon, which is to really return Las Vegas to a city of family and a city of a shining city, a city of hope for the world. Welcome with me at this time, if you would. Please welcome Mr. Reverend Resfred Arthur. Thank you, Resfred.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful hearing you on Suzanne speaking on the current state of the current regime of North Korea and South Korea. I learned so much. I wasn't aware of the current president of South Korea being an avid supporter of the reunification efforts. And so, yeah, I will promote the Defense Forum Foundation as much as I can to supporting the effort of bringing awareness to the situation, but more than that, to be able to work towards a peaceful reunification and for all of us to understand even more that we are one family under God. So I'd like to get started with a brief introduction. Let's share my screen. I think it all starts with our origin. Dr. Jenkins introduced me briefly, and I
can't
believe
see.
my. One second. Yeah, it's here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't see your screen.
So-
We see you. Your screen didn't come up yet. There it is.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, I think my life view in large part has been shaped by my upbringing. As Dr. Jenkins mentioned, I was born in Ghana, West Africa, to my father, Anthony, and my mother, Mariko Arthur. My father is Ghanaian, my mother is Japanese, and they were both missionaries. Missionaries for many years before being called to marriage, called to receive the blessing by our founders, Father and Mother Moon. That's Dr. Sun Myat Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. And their story of coming together is something that I've shared many times, but to put it briefly, it was a calling by, on my mother's side, to wed someone from Africa for the sake of world peace. And this is based on her experience of discrimination and segregation during the Korean riots in Los Angeles back in 1991. And so, happily, they named each of their children. I'm the second of four, with the you could say suffix to our names Fred, which means peace, and Res for me stands for restoration. And so, in an effort towards the restoration of peace in this world, I feel my parents have done their part and have passed the baton on to me, as have many members of our movement, and many people around the world are working to today. So I'd like to share a little bit about my experience in Korea. Last year, I had the opportunity to visit the demilitarized zone together with around 420 youth from America, and when we talk about the issue of North and South reunification, I think many don't understand its significance and importance at this time, but this is something much greater. And so when we went to the DMZ last year, it was around this was in April this year, it was around 420 youth, and our objective there was to pray. We went there to pray, and I believe there's nothing greater than prayer in bringing about miracles and bringing about a world of harmony. And so here we have youth from all around America, and some people joining from Asia, some from Europe, in order to pray at this location that is so important to God, that it's so important to humanity. I think sometimes we forget that we are one people. So here, together with friends from around, we traveled. We had a pilgrimage of 10 days in Korea, and it culminated in visiting this place that I believe pains God so much, as do many places in the world, because we do not recognize the unity that we share in our identity as God's children. And so here you see many people praying. We were able to visit this fence overlooking North Korea, and here you can see a number of people from the pilgrimage praying. Right after that, we went to the Han River Bridge. So this was a bridge back in, I believe, 1950, that was blown up by the South Korean government due to the invasion of North Koreans coming over. And actually, most of the casualties in this bridge were South Korean soldiers who were making their way down. And this was obviously a time of plight, a time of fear, because the advancement of the North Korean troops into South Korea was something that would have caused a lot of devastation there. And so we were able to visit this place and also offer prayers for the sake of the peaceful reunification. As with many places, where hope is that no one will be able to live again in a time when lives will be lost over ideological differences. And it was a very pleasant experience, but also a painful one at that, because as we walked across the bridge here, you see some of my friends just walking across, and some more so joyfully. It's a testament to how everything we have today builds on the foundation of tomorrow, but however, that everything of today is built on a foundation that was quite painful. And that was very evident in the next place we visited, which was the Korean War Memorial. In the Korean War Memorial, we were able to see various different relics of the past, of the Korean War, and it was quite sad going through it. I saw a fighter jet an original one, by a North Korean defector, there as well as I believe Kim Il Sung's car, as well as tanks that were operational during that war as well. And you also see, and you are shown in various illustrations and statues, just depictions of families that the situation they were in, migrating from the north to the south to go to a place where they could be free, to worship, where they could be free to live in liberty. And so I'd like to share a little bit about what our founder, Mother Moon, who wrote the book Mother of Peace, this is a quote from it. She mentioned, "It is important to build memorials and educate people about historical wrongs. Still, the higher priority is to release the bitter anguish and anger harbored by those who came before us and who suffered and died unjustly." So, as we were there at the Korean War Memorial, at the Han River Bridge, and at the DMZ, in many ways it's quite valuable to be able to see and to experience, but there's something much more deeply rooted beyond all of that, and that is the pain of the people who are currently in the North Korean regime, the pain of the people who are suffering because of separation from their family, but also I believe the pain of God, who sees humanity, who sees us divided, although having a common origin and a common ancestor. And so I'm reminded of this past month. There was I would say a momentous event that happened around the world. I think many of you watched the Paris Olympics, and I know there are many different controversies when it comes to the Olympics or sports. However, something that I saw that I thought was quite beautiful was this moment here. You see Chinese table tennis players, but they are sandwiched by the North Koreans and the South Koreans, who participated in the Team Olympics. And so in this game, China won first place, and you have North Korea winning second place in the mixed doubles Olympic championship, as well as South Korea. And so it was very beautiful. It was very beautiful, almost a moment to bring out tears, because this was a moment where they could come together, take a picture together. You can see in the next image here, this is a North Korean gymnast together with a South Korean gymnast taking pictures together. So to me, what's very evident here, it's people of today don't harbor the resentment of the past. People are longing for reunification. People are longing for it deep within, because they know we are one family. And this young girl, I believe about 16 years old, just walked up to the North Korean gymnast and wanted to take a picture together. And so I think in many ways the world of today was defined by the past. However, our ideologies doesn't match. And so for me, it was very beautiful seeing this. And I believe that the Olympics represent, if you see the symbol, it's about 5 different continents that come together. And when you watch it, I was watching the basketball game in which America took gold place. You could see so many Americans, united in supporting our nation. It's like it's a time where people come together. It's like for a moment people forget about politics. People forget about Trump or Harris. People forget about the divide within our own nation, and we come together as one. We come together recognizing our common identity, because we are, in one sense, representing ourselves and facing other people. And so for me, seeing that, it reminded me of how that is just, that unity is something that we remember when we are, in one sense, have some sort of opposition elsewhere. But sometimes we forget our common identity as people of this earth, as people who have common origins. And so I think last month, Joshua Holmes shared about this briefly, So I'll just recap it. An example of something that is happening here within the West Coast is something hosted by in LA called the Peace Cup. And this was an event, this was a program started by Father and Mother Moon many years back, a few decades ago, in an effort to bring about world peace. So similar to the Olympics, the vision was that sports could bring people together and sports could lead towards a peaceful reunification of North and South Korea. So the effort in Peace Cup is to raise that awareness, to play sports together, to come together so that eventually we can be able to bring about a time where we can play sports together in North Korea to signify a heavenly unified Korean Peninsula. And so here we have a lot of young people coming together, not just for the purpose of a sports festival. We do sports everywhere, but everyone here before attending received education and an understanding of the importance and the significance of why we're here. We're here to promote peace, and we're here to bring about a time where we can recognize who we are. And so when I think of the issue of North and South Korea, what comes to mind is it's not just an idealistic problem. It's also a human rights issue, just like Suzanne Schultz just shared. And I think of, as someone who came from Ghana, I'm not native to America, but I found it so beautiful, the unalienable rights that is set off in our Declaration of Independence, right? It says we're all endowed with certain unalienable rights by their creator, our creator, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these unalienable rights are defined as human rights. And it pains me so much to know that there are people in this world who aren't able to have these rights of life, these rights of liberty, and these rights of the pursuit of happiness. And so when I think of that, it makes me realize that we need to pray even more. We need to come together a bit more to recognize our common identity, because that's what's going to lead to a world of oneness. When we realize that we are one people, when I think of North and South Korea, I think of two brothers who were once separated. And there's an old tale of two brothers in Italy who were separated during an earthquake. And what happened was years later, they find a way to reunify because they were working together, and they realized that, wait a minute, we have the same birthday, we have similar tendencies, we have similar features, and then eventually they come together, recognizing that they are one family. And so that's what I feel we've been missing for so long, which is the unity of us in recognizing that we are one people, and that the story of North and South Korea represents the division that is happening all across the world, across the whole world, between nations, between ethnicities, between people of different ideologies. And even though we may have been separated, should we forget about each other? And I don't think so. I recently started learning the piano, and the first song that my instructor taught me was something called Old Lang Syne. And I'll sing the first four lines. It goes, should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and the days of Old Lang Syne? And I don't think old acquaintances should be forgot. People are there. We were once together. We were once one people. So let us remember our common origin and fight for the day where we can come together as one people, recognizing that we are one family. And it was just one day that we decided we were different that has caused the division we are today. And so here in Las Vegas and around the world as a movement, we pray every single night. Every single night, we have people all around the world, over 100,000 people, just praying for hours, 2 hours every night, 1 hour every morning, just praying for the day where we can come together as one, the day where North Korea can be liberated so Korea can once again become one family, can become one nation, to set the example for the world, to remind us that we were once one people, and to set the example of the reunification of not just nations, but also of ideologies within the world. And so my hope is that one day we can come together to realize God's dream of one family. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a presentation. Thank you, Reverend Reverend Arthur. That was so uplifting, and I'm always impressed by your understanding of the essence of the fact that this is one common people. The Korean people go back 44,300 years, and they should not be separated because of politics. So thank you, and yes, let's take a couple questions here. Mark Lincoln asked Suzanne, the North Korean defectors in South Korea are putting their loved ones in the North in danger by speaking out the way they do, and that they how are they able to resolve speaking out while endangering their own families?
That's a great question, and I actually always have sunglasses with me. Dr. Jenkins, you may remember the young woman, very unassuming, Lee Sun-ok, that
Yes.
was very, very unassuming. She actually had been an informant. When she testified at the forum, she wore dark sunglasses. So in answer to Mark's question, he's absolutely right. One of the ways the regime intimidates people that have escaped is to threaten their loved ones. So the ones that speak out with their real names, showing their real faces, do not have, in most cases, do not have any family members that they've left behind. But the ones that still have family members always guard. We use fake names, and then when they do testify, they'll use sunglasses or change how they look in some way so they won't be recognized. But Mark, it's a great question. It's absolutely a problem, and that's why we're really careful to protect their identities.
Another question for Suzanne by Mark again. It's you sound like a person who received a calling from God to help our brothers and sisters in North Korea. Can you share a little bit about that experience? How did you receive your calling to do this great work?
I started this work in 1996, 1997, and my foundation was chiefly focused on American national security, but every single country that's a threat to America, without exception, is a threat to their own people. And I felt like I should do more on human rights. So I got involved in hosting people who escaped from communist regimes, and I wanted to bring somebody from North Korea, and I finally succeeded. It took me a year, and I hosted the first North Korean defectors that had ever testified in the United States. And when they spoke, people were just amazed to hear their stories, because one was an army colonel, one was a diplomat. And I know, Tomiko, I think Dr. Jenkins, I think you've heard the story before, but this former army colonel and former diplomat stood in front of this audience on Capitol Hill, and they said, look at us, we're proof all your humanitarian aid is being misused, because the army colonel looked like he never missed a meal. The diplomat was kind of scrawny. And the army colonel basically said, it's military first. All the humanitarian aid that was being poured into North Korea from the World Food Program, from the European Union, from the Japanese government, from the South Korean government, was being misused. And it was used to, it was diverted. And that's why you still saw 3 million people starve to death. Well, we finally had a hearing on this issue and the political prison camps and everything. The story got spiked because the Clinton administration at the time did not want to open up this whole can of worms about human rights violations, because they were getting ready to have the 4-party talks. And I was so upset this story got spiked from Voice of America. I just dropped on my knees and said, God, I can't do this anymore. I just have nightmares. I can't do this anymore. And it's just too hard. And God, I heard God's voice. I was answering your prayer. And I was like, oh, that's right. I prayed in the 1990s that God would break my heart for what was breaking his heart. And so God was basically saying, you prayed, I'm showing you, this is breaking my heart. So that's how that's the single most reason why I've been able to stay involved in all this, despite a lot of terrible things and a lot of hardship, a lot of death threats, a lot of disappointments. But the one thing that's kept me focused is what's happening in North Korea is breaking God's heart. And that's why I've been able to continue to do this work. So yes, it's a calling.
Very good, Suzanne. We're proud of you. Thank you for your example of answering the calling. And she does it with such joy. When she was at the home we were at a month ago, she was standing on the upper level of the terrace in the back. was raised up about 5 feet. She was up at the top, really, really hope, filled with hope and the joy of these people that got liberated through their efforts. And I'll never forget that, the energy I felt that day from you standing up on that raised up terrace. Oh, it's so beautiful. And also showing some of the bad things also that even some U.S. congressmen have done, to actually not follow through on America's ideals and principles. So she's not only trying to help the people who are oppressed, but she's also trying to help America live up to its responsibility. She keeps the fire to the feet of Democrats and Republicans. She's not at all hesitant on that. So, Resfred, in the War Museum, what did the young people you were with? I know there were quite a number of young people there. What were any of the comments about the Korean War or the separation of North and South Korea?
Oh, there were many things. I spent a lot of time looking at the aircraft, and you also had an opportunity to go into one of the warships, as well. So many people, as I noticed as we were walking there, went straight to the American flag, and said a prayer in gratitude for the Americans, and not just the Americans. There are many people, many nations around the world that came to support Korea in that time. And so I think the biggest impression I had was from seeing all of our members and the youth going to the American flag, and many people, because they belong to other nations, going to their flag and saying a prayer of gratitude, and seeing the Korean, so it's not just foreigners, right? A lot of Korean people attend, seeing the Korean ajumas and ajushis, the old men and old women, just seeing the Americans and just thanking them, right? So to me, and it just represented a time when the world could unite, come together for the sake of something much greater. And I don't know if there's ever been anything like that ever again, but I just seeing that was amazing. It was like the world looked out for one of its compatriots, recognizing that we are one people and no one deserves to live under oppression. No one deserves to undergo the things that we're going through. And so I think in many ways it reminded many of the Americans who were there of the spirit of America, the spirit of the founding fathers, the spirit of where America stands today, to live for the sake of the world. And so that was the biggest impression I had, just walking into the Korean War Memorial. And beyond that, of course, looking through the various different, you could enter a room where you saw the different nations and their unique attire, their unique soldier clothing, and also some of the relics from the war as well. And it pained my heart and a few others to realize that actually, even till today, there are still, I believe till today, there's still bodies that are not uncovered from the war, somewhere around the demilitarized zone. And so just recognizing that and seeing that was very painful. But of course, as with anything, going to such a place reminds us of how we can't bring this about again, but more so we need to work towards a reunification to, in one sense, complete the efforts of all those who gave their life for that nation and for that effort. So that was my biggest impression from people around there.
Thank you. We have time for one more question from the audience. You can put your question in the chat, or you can raise your hand through the reaction area of the bottom panel. Anybody? All right, then let's allow Resfred to give your final remarks about the program today, and then we'd like to turn it over to Dr. Schulte to conclude.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's just an honor to be here and to just hear of everything that's going on. I know UPF and IAPD has many different efforts to bring about the unified Korea, and just thank you for your effort. And yeah, Dr. Suzanne, thank you for sharing everything that you just shared, and also thank you for everything that you do in raising awareness and to support the people of North Korea towards coming back to you say civilization, coming back to and be able to support the people who are still in that nation. And so, yeah, thank you for all that you
Thank
do.
you.
That's all I have to say.
All right, Suzanne, final remark.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when the North Korean, when we always get asked the question, when will the regime collapse? And we always say tomorrow. So I don't know a lot of Korean. I know 안녕하세요, 감사합니다, hello, thank you. But the one thing I know is 아버지 자유박한, which is dear Father God, please free North Korea. So I'll just conclude with that. But thank you so much, Dr.
Oh,
Jenkins,
that's
for those
beautiful.
very kind words.
Beautiful.
And thank you, Tomiko.
Thank you. And Gray McCready just wrote, how can the Kim regime be softened? How can they be softened? We'll leave that for the next show. We'll invite Suzanne back. We'll be inviting you back, Breastfred. Also, one thing that for sure I long for that day, like the Berlin Wall, when that barrier, that man-made barrier between North and South Korea dissolves and the people of Korea can come together again. And really, there'll be, what a great country that will be already. ROK is incredible. The Korean people in the North are incredible. What a great country that's going to be when it comes back together. So thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Breastfred. And then Tomiko, our vice president. Thank you so much. Tomiko, come on back to give us our directions for the next.
Directions, yes. But anyway, Dr. Scholte, thank you so much for sharing precious testimonies coming from the hearts of North Korean defectors. And it's so sad to hear that mining along river. It's a new kind of development that we have to really pray hard for not to happen. So anyway, thank you for updating us, and looking forward to working with you. Respred, thank you so much for sharing a beautiful moment of the Olympics. North Koreans and South Koreans sharing that particular photo. Really can see, yes, someday we'll really see the unity, just like you sang songs, beautiful, sharing beautiful your voice. Thank you. Thank you once again, Dr. Michael Jenkins. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
So
Thank
inspiring.
you. Scholte, see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadia, if you could leave the Zoom on for a moment, because we'd like people to have a chance to go to the Defense Forum Foundation link at the top of the chat. Go make a donation today, even if it's a small one, don't worry. Just help. Every dollar will help people get reach to freedom. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Scholte. Thank you, Respred.
Thank you, Dr. Schulte. Thank you, Respred. Wonderful.
This was a wonderful program, and we can share it far and wide.
Oh, yeah.
Very good, yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Peace. True peace. Are we still on? Okay. It was so great. It was so great. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Here's the link again.
Wonderful program.
Yes.
Yeah. Gives me some more insight onto how to pray more specifically for the situation there in North Korea. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing that we think of North Korea as an iron curtain
Yeah.
country, but they're able to get things in. They're able to get information
Yeah.
into this country that we think is just locked like an iron curtain, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's not.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too, because I thought the other countries that were like that, we couldn't get anything in. But seeing how we can get things into North Korea is so hopeful.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I'm just amazed. And this is not high-tech stuff. They just put bottles of
No.
rice in the water,
No,
and the ocean washes them up on the shore.
I
And
know.
find them.
And what's really amazing is that they put an American dollar in the bottle, and that will feed a family for 1 week.
Yes.
That's
Amazing.
incredible. I'd like to go shopping over there for 1 week. I
Amazing.
don't want to live over, but I'm so hopeful when I pray, in our residence prayers and everything, and I just go, there is no north, there is no south, there is only one united heavenly Korea, and I keep chanting that as a chant. There is no north, there is no south. God, just make this happen so much.
Look what one sister like Suzanne Schulte can do.
Yeah, yeah.
One sister.
And her testimony about how her calling was, and that when she really thought she couldn't do it anymore, God just said, "No, I'm answering your prayer." She couldn't say no. She had to keep going.
Yes.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Showed her his broken heart
Yes. Yes.
from the inside, because
Yeah.
that's how she felt.
Yeah. And I always have the North Korean sister and the gymnast and the other South Korean one. And when they're taking their little selfie together, the South Korean sister held up her fingers for peace. That was great.
Mhm.
I was going, Monte.
This is the video of the last time that Dr. Suzanne was on with us in November of 2021. If you want to look at that, that tells a lot more on how they're getting everything to North Korea.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you.
Sorry, you said that's in the chat, Nadia?
Yep, I just put it in there, a YouTube link. And I believe it's from November of 2021.